other news of the weekend that shook some people to their core, had people very worried, have some folks crying. Man, Marge, why? Why, Marge?
When common American people realize and understand that the political industrial complex of both parties is ripping this country apart, that not one elected leader like me is able to stop Washington's machine from gradually destroying our country, and instead the reality is that they, common Americans, the people, possess the real power over Washington, then I'll be here by their side to rebuild it. Until then, I'm going back to the people that I love, to live my life to the fullest as I always have, and I look forward to a new path ahead. I'll be resigning from office with my last day being January 5th, 2026, and I look forward to seeing many of you again sometime in the future.
Marjorie Taylor Greene has decided to resign from Congress. I mean, effectively at the beginning of January. She had a whole almost 10 and a half, maybe even longer than that, minute discussion about who she is, where she's coming from, and why she's resigning. That was on the back end of the whole thing. I'm gonna give you a couple moments from what is that she explained, because I feel like people were talking about the resignation part and not really going to the way that she tried to sell herself throughout this entire thing. It was kind of all over the place, but it was a calculated kind of all over the place.
I've worked hard to bring taxpayer dollars back home to help district needs. I impeached Biden's Secretary of Homeland after watching my constituents die as he facilitated dangerous open border invasion into America. And I led the effort to defund hard-left politically biased NPR and PBS and the corrupt USAID, and I did that as chair of the DOJ subcommittee. I have fought harder than almost any other elected Republican to elect Donald Trump and Republicans to power. I traveled the country for years. I spent millions of my own money. I missed precious time with my family that I can never get back. And I showed up in places like outside the New York courthouse in Collect Pond Park against a raging leftist mob as Trump faced Democrat lawfare. Meanwhile, most of the establishment Republicans who secretly hate him and who stabbed him in the back and never defended him against anything have all been welcomed in right after the election. And I will never forget the day I had to leave my mother's side as my father had brain surgery to remove cancerous tumors in order to fly to Washington, D.C. to defend President Trump and vote no against the Democrats' second impeachment in 2021. My poor father and my poor mother, it was way too much for all of us.
Well, that's the section where she decides to talk about her undying loyalty to Donald Trump, her complete and utter fealty to it. Her, by the way, I'm glad she's saying it so that folks who have been, clear-eyed about who she continues to be won't have to say it and then get called someone with Trump derangement syndrome. She said she's still proud of her stance against PBS and her stance on the DOJ committee and getting rid of USAID, that organization that actually helps people in need. And then now so many people have died because of the removal of those funds and that assistance. She's proud of that stuff. This huge Democrat super lib that Fox News is calling her because of the last few weeks of her saying two things that make some sense. Instead, she's touting all of her super conservative, super Donald Trump gravitas, all of her credentials about how much of a piece of shit she still is. Yo, I didn't say it. She said it. She's pointing out all this stuff about her.
Through it all, I never changed or went back on my campaign promises and only disagreed in a few areas, like my stance against H-1Bs replacing American jobs, AI state moratoriums, debt for life 50-year mortgage scams, standing strongly against all involvement in foreign wars, and demanding the release of the Epstein files. Other than that, my voting record has been solidly with my party and the president. Loyalty should be a two-way street, and we should be able to vote our conscience and represent our district's interests because our job title is literally representative. America first should mean America first and only Americans first, with no other foreign country ever being attached to America first in our halls of government. Standing up for American women who were raped at 14 years old, trafficked and used by rich, powerful men should not result in me being called a traitor and threatened by the President of the United States, whom I fought for. However, while yes, hurtful, My heart remains filled with joy, my life is filled with happiness, and my true convictions remain unchanged because my self worth is not defined by a man, but instead by God who created everything in existence.
Well, I think she is touching on one of the things that's forcing her out. I'm sorry, that's making her choose to suddenly resign out of nowhere. Donald Trump is threatening her. We already saw it. I mean, we saw her respond to it and talk about how she's being threatened and talk about the death threats that she's received since. Talk about how rabid that it's gotten. But still, as to go back to her previous little clip that I played there, um, it's coming from all that, but the left is so much worse. Can't believe it. They always came after me. It's I've always fought against all of these horrible things about the left, because they're trying to destroy us. That is until the guy that I've supported that she full throatedly just said she did all this stuff for and still stands the same way for him came for her. Crazy how that works. But this is how she's going to try and twist it to the point of having some strength behind this resignation and running from the fact that Donald Trump, to whatever degree, threatened the hell out of her.
I have too much self respect and dignity. I love my family way too much, and I do not want my sweet district to have to endure a hurtful and hateful primary against me by the president that we all fought for, only to fight and win my election while Republicans will likely lose the midterms, and in turn be expected to defend the president against impeachment after he hatefully dumped tens of millions of dollars against me and tried to destroy me. It's all so absurd and completely unserious. I refuse to be a battered wife, hoping it all goes away and gets better. If I am cast aside by the president and the MAGA political machine and replaced by neocons, big pharma, big tech, military-industrial war complex, foreign leaders, and the elite donor class that can never ever relate to real Americans, then many common Americans have been cast aside and replaced as well.
A quick translation. I'm worried I'm going to lose the next race. If I lose the next race, I don't have much of a leg to stand on to then go and project myself to those next levels of government that I'm looking to get to, say maybe even governor of Georgia. And some people are speculating she's going to run for president. I'm not sure if she really thinks she can do that, but maybe she has these thoughts of grand jumps and bounces to the next levels. But in order to do that, you can't finish your lower session term, especially in something like Congress, where you get beaten and then so many people dislike you, not only from the left, but also from the right because of the last couple of weeks of your opposition to Donald Trump based off of the Epstein file situation, which is obviously a cover up for this nasty, destructive things and people that he's continuing to try and keep hidden. She's kind of in no man's land. So she's thinking she can take off, rehabilitate her career, but then also avoid all those death threats.
You see, I have never valued power, titles, or attention in spite of all the wrong assumptions about me. I do not cling to those things because they are meaningless and empty traps that hold too many people in Washington. I believe in term limits and do not think Congress should be a lifelong career or an assisted living facility. My only goal and desire has ever been to hold the Republican Party accountable for the promises it makes to the American people and put America first. And I have fought against Democrats' damaging policies like the Green New Deal, wide open, deadly, unsafe border policies, and the trans agenda on children and against women. With that has brought years of non-stop, never-ending personal attacks, death threats, lawfare, ridiculous slander and lies about me that most people could never withstand even for a single day. It has been unfair and wrong, not only to me, but especially to my family, but it's been wrong to my district as well.
You see that? It's positioning herself to be this above all, that I mentioned, above all politician. Doesn't want to hurt her sweet constituents. I love them too much. She wants to make sure that she steps aside, gets away from the whole back and forth and toxicity, but still is going to talk about the left being so destructive as she talks about people transing kids and all this stuff. But she doesn't want you to keep seeing that. She's repositioning herself. And Donald Trump's response to this whole thing, I think, kind of tells us another layer to this whole story. He was pissed, remember? Posted a couple things. So Rachel Scott of ABC News posted about what she had to say to him about this. She said, just spoke with Trump on the phone. He said Marjorie Taylor Greene resigning is, quote, great news from the country. I don't know. She quoted it to make sure that It wasn't her saying it was him saying it like that. Continuing, she says, I think it's great news for the country. It's great, the president said. I asked if she gave him any heads up. Nah, it doesn't matter. But I think it's great. I think she should be happy, he said. So the lady you just said has turned on MAG. You don't understand how she's MAGA, and you don't understand why she's flipped and done all this stuff. And then you've got Fox News saying that she's a total Democrat and all this stuff. But it's just this quick. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I just think that she should be happy. She just should be happy. I mean, whatever. It's fine. Come on, bro. Last bit of the conversation that Rachel Scott had with him, though. She says, when I asked the president about the rift between the two of them, the president said, only between me and her, not her and me. He said, as of now, he has no plans to speak to her and wishes her well. he also wished Glenn Maxwell well, but I feel like there's different kinds of energy behind this random and empty wish her well. But I do wonder, think about this. What happens with her stance and her push to release Epstein files? What happens to the ongoing potential release of information, to continue cover up of information that this Trump administration and this DOJ and the FBI are going to continue to do? Where's this fighter who said she's going to go and stand on the floor of Congress and read off the names of the culprits? Why is she running now? Does she not care about this anymore? Because she definitely brought up the assault of these children. Now is she running from it? Does she assume it's going to be all over before January? I'm wondering why no one's asking. Do you not care anymore? Do we assume it's going to be over by Christmas or something?